Hello, folks. Welcome to the Flight Simulator remote reading. I'm your host. My name is Mike. Welcome. Sorry, it's been like 2 months since we've done one of these, so I'm a little rusty. So we'll see if I remember what I'm doing at all. The Flight Simulator remote readings started as an offshoot of the Flight Recorder reading series, which I hosted back at the Tank. You can see our lovely The Tank logo at the other corner of our screen, right up here. Like this thing. The Tank is a Midtown Manhattan off-Broadway theater. It's really my artistic home in New York City. I miss it very much, but I'm glad that the Tank has been hosting online shows, and I'm glad to be a part of that. So welcome. We are here under the auspices of the Cyber Tank, which is the Tank's online initiative. We're here to create some good art for you tonight. So I'm really excited to be back here in this shared digital space with y'all. How's everyone doing tonight? You can tell me in the chat on the other side of the screen right there if you're watching on Twitch. If you're logged in. If you're not logged in, you can't tell me how you're doing, but you can tell me later, whatever. I want to hear from you. Care about you, my lovely audience. So we've got a really special show for you tonight. In the past, Flight Simulator has mostly been like me talking a lot and then playing clips of other people reading poems and then talking about them. Excellent. Glad that we are doing okay tonight. Tonight's going to be a little different. For the first time tonight, we have a live guest here for you. I'm very excited to introduce them in just a moment. But yeah, I just wanted to wax for a little bit on like what we're doing here. I'm here creating art under the tank. I'm going to drop a link on the screen. Very not on this, on the other. See, it's like mirrored. It's very confusing for me. So here, right here, you can see the tank's donation link. I always encourage audience members to donate to the tank. The tank is a great space. It's like the reason I create art in New York City right now. Love the tank with all of my heart. I'm also going to take down that banner. Yeah, cool. So support the tank when you can. If you can tonight, that's great. If not, you're still here. You're still watching a tank show, and I'm glad to have you. So tonight we have one special guest, but really two featured poets, because I will also be reading. So tonight I will be sharing some poetry by myself and by my wonderful flight recorder co-producer, my dear friend and roommate, just amazing creative partner, Colin Knopfwin. Hold on, I'll throw my name up. This is me. Hello. So Colin has been an integral part of Flight Recorder since we started last year. We started back in November with the first ever Flight Recorder reading series. But really, Flight Recorder had its origins in a conversation that me and Colin had last summer about this time, about how I wanted to host a poetry show at the tank. Immediately after we had that conversation, Colin went and told their boss, Rosalind Grush, at that time one of the co-artist directors of the tank. And, Rosalind was like, yeah, great idea. So I was like, well, I guess I have to do a show now. So really the show owes everything to Colin. Colin also read at the most recent in-person Flight Recorder reading. You can see them reading here. Really, really great piece. It's just been such an honor to watch Colin get into poetry. And I would love to introduce you now to Colin. Let me figure out how to bring them into the stream. There we go. Colin.
Hey, Mike.
Hello. I will make you nice and big. Boom. Colin.
Mike, I did not know you were going to show a picture of me, but that's very fun. Thank you for doing that.
Full of surprises.
What's up? What's up with you?
Vibing. Didn't really think through this interaction. So it's great. Cool.
We haven't seen each other in a while, obviously, in our palatial estate here. There's just so many rooms. Like, are you in the East Wing, the South Wing, the Arboretum?
Yeah, you joke, but we do have a pretty nicely sized apartment here in lovely Crown Heights. Would love to show it to everybody, but can't do that. Oh, we've got comments happening. I'd like to respond to Soccer Commie, which great handle. We do love this picture of Big Beard Colin. Absolutely. Getting asked how many square feet between us. That is, a really good question. How big is our apartment?
Palatial. It's I don't know. No, our landlord doesn't keep records of anything, so it's impossible to know. Like a really weird shape, so it's not like we can just measure it ourselves.
That is true. We also don't have a tape measure. We learned recently. So,
that's true.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to be doing some actual poetry tonight. Soccer Commie, great question. How many doors in the apartment? I'm going to say 5 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 1 common space closet. 4 of the bedrooms have closets.
No, all
that's
5 of them
10 doors.
All 5 of them do.
I don't think that's true. See, clearly there's some disagreement on the number of doors in our space. Anyway, let's talk poetry, Colin. That's what we're here for, right?
14 if you count the front door. Yes, hi.
14. Are you counting bathrooms?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to trust your judgment on this.
Oh, no. Sorry, 17. Sorry, I forgot about all the kitchen stuff.
Oh, yeah, we have kitchen. We have, like, some kitchen doors. True. This is, I'm sure, thrilling for everybody involved. So I'm going to share some poems that you've created tonight. So something you've been doing since we went digital with Flight Simulator is every time I've done a show, you've created a piece of like video poetry for it that I've usually ended the show with, and we've got them all together tonight. And any thoughts before I start sharing those?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm a huge proponent of artists, I guess, narrowly, and people in general, broadly, like making work in a field in which they are completely unfamiliar. I think it's one of the most fun ways to like generate weird art, and I think weird art is the best art worth generating. So, being a person who's like not into or good at poetry, this has been a really, a fun experience to just really throw myself into making video poetry, kind of based on what I know of poetry, which I know through the lens of you.
I'm gonna push back on not good at, because I think some of the work you've created for the space has been like really stunningly good. But I guess we can leave that up to the audience to decide as well. It never ceases to bring me pleasure to like get my friends into poetry, and I'm glad that that took with you. Cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and figure out how to play the first one of these, which is not the first piece you made for Flight Simulator, but it's not the first piece, but I think in some ways it is the worst piece.
I agree with that.
I love it with all my heart, but well, let's jump in. This is called Beat Poetry, and I maybe spoke too soon because it's going to take like 30 seconds for me to set this up.
Oh, that's embarrassing. I don't know how to vamp.
Ooh, yeah. Okay. Oh, here we go. It's here on the screen. I'm going to make it big so that people can't see our faces, and then I'm going to hit the play button.
Hello. I have now heard about this, and I think I would like to try it. I would please like to beat poetry. May we use our fists? Would weapons be okay? I have a meat tenderizer, which I never use because of my recalcitrant vegetarianism. I brought it today. May I use that? I have now learned that it may be harder than this to beat poetry. Still, we have to try. With our military budget, how have we not already? If it's a game, may I play it? I excel at games. May I take a stab at beating poetry? Even getting the high score in poetry? May I leave my 3-letter moniker at the top of the list at the end of poetry? We must beat poetry because we have to beat poetry. Look, in this world, it's either beat or be beaten off. I think I know which I prefer. I know a lot of people are with me. We gotta beat poetry, and we gotta do it together. I say, go to heck to the aesthetic qualities of the language and the ways in which bastards worldwide employ them to create confounding, contrasting, or coherent meanings. I've just been told that the aesthetic qualities of language are intrinsic to the very nature of language. I am being alerted that only the total elimination of language can thus beat poetry. Regrettably, silence may inherently also convey meaning and thus shares the contours of poetry. I no longer wish to play this loser's game. Instead, I enjoin you to join me in enjoying a better game. That's Tekken 7.
Folks, you can like drop clap emojis in the chat if you want to signify your clapping. In the meantime, I will just gently applaud after every piece. Colin, I love that piece. I find that very funny. It's so you. It really harkens back to an earlier phase of our apartment where your bedroom was full of garbage bags also. So it's fun for that reason. But more interestingly, I think it's like a piece that really combines like humor and poetry in a way that I find interesting, to the extent that it's like almost more of a joke than a poem. And I wonder if you could speak to your like relationship with your own work between the two.
Yeah, I love almost more of a joke than a poem as like a characterization. It's, as you mentioned, I think the least of the 4 pieces of mine that you're going to share tonight. And that's partially because that it doesn't use video super well. I know all of these pieces, I think I sort of created the day of. So in past, Wednesdays, big. In past Wednesdays, you'd be like, Colin, you gonna have something for me? And I'd be like, yeah, no, I got something. And this one I distinctly remember is like sitting at my desk, like beating myself over, trying to just really beating myself off, trying to like think of like a thing for poetry, something to make. And so it's just, I think it's one I would enjoy reading more live. And the video adds very little to it, frankly. And I have never played Tekken 7. And so to answer your question, that's the joke.
I think the next Flight Simulator stream here on Twitch is actually just going to be us playing Tekken 7. I think that'd be a fun bit. So that raises an interesting point, which is that piece I think doesn't necessarily work all that well as a video poem, or it doesn't do anything as a video poem that it wouldn't do like read out loud. I can see you reading that at an open mic, doing many of the same like physical gestures.
Probably better. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to read a piece of my own now, which I will figure out a way to put on the screen, which I thought felt good here because it's kind of a piece that I think tries to be funny, maybe. We'll see if I'm right. I'm going to make you go away. Goodbye, Colin. Okay, this I think is pretty visible. So I'm going to read this to you, and I hope you can also read it from your screens if need be. I think one of the great advantages of a space like this is that poems can be rendered both visible and audible in a way that at like an open mic you really can't do. This is a piece I wrote earlier this year. It's called Emily Dickinson Drowned Kittens in Pickle Juice. This is true. I love learning this is true, not because I'm particularly invested in Emily Dickinson or in the particular cats she drowned in another century and not even the last one, but because it is sensational. I love the sensational because I love sensation. I love learning facts that make me feel things other than the things I am trying not to feel. Today's gossip. Mercury is in retrograde. A friend of a friend is in an open marriage. Emily Dickinson drowned kittens in pickle juice. And the night I learned this, I drink a pickleback and tell myself it's conceptually connected, commemorative. Really, I just want to brine this feeling, the shock, the newness. As if preservation isn't inimical to the notion of newness. Really, I just want to drown in pickle juice and whiskey the thoughts I deem superfluous. Thoughts that are irrepressibly mewling underfoot. Kittens I have named desire and shame, or desire and shame that I have named kittens. I drink a drink I named a whiskey back, where you chase a shot of whiskey with a shot of whiskey. This isn't true, and I say it because it's sensational to say it. To imagine a me that's 1 degree worse off.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, of course.
I love that poem. I remember walking around the neighborhood with you, was talking about that poem when you first read it to me. And I feel like it's very much in your, it's maybe not the most Mike poem there is, but it's a very Mike poem. I feel like you have a very distinct voice to you, which does sort of what beat poetry does, of beat poetry, my poem, not beat poetry, the genre, of really, really like weaving humor into into your poetry and finding ways to make your poems funny. And I think that's what makes them good as poems, is because they're funny. They're easy to stay in. and stay with. Do you write your do you write your poems to be funny, or does it happen?
I think, I mean, like to say it just happens feels really generous to myself. There is that intent in my work, but I think it's also something that comes out when I'm not necessarily going for that. I feel like this relates to just like how I interface with humor as a person, in that, you know, the first time I was diagnosed with cancer, one of the first things I did was start joking about it. And I think I processed a lot of difficult subjects with humor. And then also, like, everything that's not difficult, I process even more with humor. So it feels very natural to, like, try to make people laugh with my poetry. It also feels very validating to, like, be in a room full of people, read a poem, and then have everybody laugh at it. So
I think laughter is a more fun response to be getting than like snaps, you know?
Yeah, absolutely agree. It's definitely a more fun, more engaging response. I think I love spaces where people will, like, you know, sigh or like groan or just like make all kinds of vocal noises, and I feel like that's like there's more of a barrier to entry for that than just like laughter. So if I can make people, I want people to say "ooh" to my poems. Really quick, I want to drop our shared website on the screen. I mentioned this up before. Our running ticker. So not only are we like roommates and creative partners and dear friends, we also have a website together that we split the budget on. It's mikeandcolin.com, your source for more info about Mike and Colin. Moving on, I have a piece by you that I really like that I'm really excited to share. It's the first thing you created for Flight Simulator back in like March. It's a great piece. It's let me remember how to put this up again.
Is this the movies one?
This is the movies one. Yeah.
All right. Oh, it's just me now. That's fun. Mike, make me go away. Anyone been to any good vegan restaurants lately?
List of films released in 1920 now considered to be lost. Vanishing Trails, King of the Circus. Wuthering Heights, Fantomas. The Fatal Sign, Adam, Snatched, Morgan. The $1,000,000 Reward, Passion's Playground. The Dragon's Net, The Pulizra Case. Hitch and Pose, The Invisible Ray. The Vanishing Dagger, The Amazing Quest of Mr. Ernest Bliss. Pirate Gold, Anna the Adventuress. The Prince of Avenue, The Flaming Disc. Pegging, The Shadow of Lightning Ridge. Bonnie May, A Slave of Vanity. Thunderbolt Jack, The Devil's Pass Key. The Brute, Der Buckledge and Datensren. A Son of David, Bride 13, Treasure Island, The Girl in Number 29. Remodeling Her Husband, Il Mostro di Frankenstein. The Screaming Shadow, Trailed by 3. Virginia Squiff, What Will Our Lost Films Be?
Colin, I truly love that piece. It's such. I have questions about like, what is it? Like, what is it doing? Can you tell us like what we're looking at there when we see that video piece?
Thanks. Yeah. So we're looking at. I was just scrolling back through the images of, or I was scrolling back through all the memes in. I think it was just all the images in the group chat that you and I and our mutual friend York have, and all of the images, I guess, just ends up being entirely memes. The whole bit of the piece being that something I think about a lot is ephemerality, and going on Wikipedia and reading these Wikipedia articles about lost films is really fascinating because they just disappear over time. Things that don't get archived disappear over time, and archiving is an active process that you can never stop doing, or things will just continue to disappear. So it was fun to draw a connection between, like, shitty memes that you get about 30 seconds after you guffaw at them once, as sort of the lost films of our era.
I love that. It's such a compelling framing, and I love that the piece fires like very, very heavily on two cylinders at once, in that we're getting the audio and the text, but we're also getting this bombardment of images. It's something that really only works, I think, in this video poetic medium. And I wonder if you can talk more about like where this first like video poem inspiration came from, because it feels like I believe this is like the first thing you've done that was in this medium, right? And for that to be the case, it feels so fully formed.
I wanted to do something fun with video, or something. There's this quote by a theater guy, Mark Lamb, I think is his name, where he's talking about theater, and he's like, what can live theater do that film or music, or like, I think one of the things he lists is cyber sex, because he wrote this article in like 1996. What can live theater do that those things can't do? And that's like what you should be doing in live theater. And so I was like, okay, what can like video poetry do that IRL poetry can't or doesn't do? So the intent was to find something that wouldn't work as well, or wouldn't work at all in IRL poetry, and make it happen.
I love that. That's fantastic. I think something that I'm trying to really capture with this show and with like my work going forward is that sense of what can my art do in this medium that it couldn't do in other mediums. That we've discussed that at length, me and you, in so many ways. And that is just such a powerful like guiding principle for work.
I like it. It's I feel like there's a lot of theater that would work better as film. There are also some films that would work better as theater. And people tell the stories that they want to tell in the media they understand how to make, but that media isn't always the most efficient medium to tell those stories with.
Excellent take. Really with you on that. So I'm going to share a piece now myself that I think does some things with form that I wouldn't be able to do in other mediums. And I'm going to show it to you guys on the screen.
Do it.
Say goodbye to Colin. I think we're alone now. Okay, so this is a piece that I'm going to read. It's called Water Tunnel Number 3, Unfinished. Let me see if I can. Ooh, maybe I'll zoom out for you. So this is a concrete poem, and that it's a poem that takes a very particular shape. Not something I've worked on before, but in a workshop I took this summer, I was like encouraged to play with form, and this is what came of that. The city is thirsty. When rain falls in Catskill, in Croton, in places with old names and gathers, the city snakes a tendril up through the earth, up through riverbed and rock and hill, a tendril of 92 miles of tunnel and dam and reservoir, on land owned by the city monitored closely, and land not owned by the city and monitored more closely still. And it takes each drop a year to make the trip, a year to travel from cloud to earth by gravity alone, and earth to aqueduct to city by gravity alone, read by robots for impurities and bombarded with ultraviolet light by quartz tube and dumped full of chlorine and more to make it safe for our pipes and our pipes. And in one last reservoir before the city, one last stop, the tendril branches in the Bronx into 3 of the greatest tunnels the world's ever seen, one driving deep under Manhattan and burying its tip in Brooklyn, one crossing where the East River meets the Long Island Sound to stretch under Queens, and the third wandering its way under every borough to water the world still unfinished. The city isn't a machine, though. It's every body at every end of the 6,800 miles of iron and steel pipes. Pipes that laid end to end would stretch from here to Los Angeles and stretch back, Everybody savoring a sip sweet from the tap or a bite of bagel or piece of pizza. Better here than elsewhere. A little enough limestone in Catskill bedrock that you can't taste the bitter calcium. But it's the bodies with button shirts and bottled water in boardrooms too. The men mostly making decisions and mapping destructions who, like Britannia, rule waves of construction and expansion. Consider the city of empire, state their intentions to finish projects their predecessors started. Cut ribbons when a new leg of the system is finished by the ones they call sandhogs, the urban miners and deep construction workers. The men mostly, who too are the city, working long shifts in long tunnels on long projects for their long lives, if they're lucky. Some alongside their fathers and sons, alongside their union brothers from other motherlands. Not all of them are lucky. By the branching in the Bronx, local to the 147 Union, built beautifully into the pavement is a memorial to the men who died in Tunnel Number 3. 23 manhole covers engraved as 23 graves to those lost to blasting and to mucking and more, who gave lives to great work, the great work of water. 23 names given to descent, but on Ascension Thursday at a mass for the victims, maybe, of the tunnel. At a Roman Catholic church, there are 24 names spoken. And if you compared them to the engraved, you wouldn't recognize Don Ray Carroll, his name too young his name on no union roster, too young when he died, a Bronx boy, local, who wandered into a tunnel and didn't come out, a manhole cover like a grave left open for him, and the city is thirsty.
Oh, I love that. I feel like that has another hallmark of Mike Percenti's poetry, which is a real exploration of nature and of human interaction with nature.
I think that's definitely true. That's something I shoot for in a lot of my work. It's something I find very interesting. The workshop I took this summer was on eco-poetics, which really explored that. And I think this is the best thing to come out of that for me.
It's an interesting poem, and it feels like one that I'm trying to figure out if this is, because it really works well to be read, to get the 3-column structure of it, or to be read with your eyes. But I feel like also the experience of Mike poems to me is so, having you narrate them is like so inimicably important to that experience, because you've got a very specific voice in your writing, of course, but also in your speaking that is really fun to listen to, and it really guides the audience through the work, which I love.
I love that. It's so good to hear that. I think that lots of something that I sometimes find frustrating with poetry spaces is when the way a poem's read doesn't feel like it's elevating the piece. And I think that speaks to what you were saying about video poetry earlier, in that if a poem is read in a very flat way, I'm left wondering why I'm not just reading it on a page.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's a degree of commitment to the reading that is necessary. And I don't know if I would have felt that way if I wasn't surrounded by theater kids as I am in our apartment. But I just have a great attention to the power of the voice with pieces like these.
Wow, it was a real hate crime to call us theater kids, but all right. Thanks, Mike. I
mean, is it wrong?
No, but it's a hate crime.
Fair. Thank you, Soccer Kami. I appreciate that. So next we have, I think, what might be my favorite video piece of yours that I've seen before. It's called Captcha, and I'm ready to pull it up. God, every time that gets me. Something I want to highlight really quickly is that you also did the music for that, right? Like improvised on the keyboard in our apartment like 10 minutes before the show that week, right?
Yeah, that was a fun one. I love doing it. That's an interesting one too, because I don't know that when I originally conceptualized that, I don't think it wanted to be a video necessarily. I think it really wants to be I was really thinking about how could you tell a science fiction story through poetry that like required it to be poetry, like where you couldn't possibly tell it as well in another medium or like just through prose. So I think having like the history of this like future where captchas are all like confusing forms of poetry is a lot of fun. And I think at some point would love to retool it into that, which I've tried to do. We had a poetry workshop on our roof exactly once. It was last summer, and I started writing it there and did not finish it.
I know that was, I think, the first time you've ever like written poetry around me or that you'd shared with me, and it was such a fun treat because I feel like there's a lot in the original version of that piece that harkens forward to the work you've done this year in various spaces, and you love to see it. It's a really, really great piece. Oh, so good. Cool. I'm gonna read a piece of my own now. My last piece of the night. Let me pull it up. This is another piece I wrote during quarantine that sort of maybe grapples with quarantine a little bit. I don't know. I don't want to put interpretations in your head. This is Poem on the Shore of Canada in the Late Devonian. Does the air taste different today? Or is it that we can taste the air at all? Every day we stray further from God's darkness, from the roiling black we come from, that sea of blood. Our eyes aren't used to this light, our bodies to this heaviness. Every day we learn new ways to use ourselves, ways that bend to breaking, ways we weren't shaped for if we were shaped at all. Every day we hold our breath a little longer until we don't have to, until this nature is second nature. Thank oxygen, the trees learning to breathe out as we learn to breathe in. Or not trees yet, exactly. We won't call them trees when we decide what to call the things that happen to us, aside from just the things that happen to us. But they have leaves the same way we have lungs and legs, almost. Where we're going, we won't need gills. Where we're going, we weren't meant to be. If our ancestors are looking up at us, they're turning in their graves or in the depths that bones float down to. Our children, if we have children, will last longer on the land. Our children's children, if, etc., won't remember the darkness or the roiling. We'll perhaps have problems of their own, but we can't help that. All we can do is haul ourselves up the shore every day, is find a nice spot to die in the beginnings of shade, to fertilize what's children's children will be trees that our children's children can sit under.
So good. I love that one.
Let me just say, this is the first time I've like looked at that poem in months, and I forgot how much I liked it.
Oh, yeah, it's lovely. You wrote that one for Distance Yearning, which is your quarantine.
I wrote that for Distance Yearning, which is my little like online lit mag and quarantine that I sort of forgot about and haven't done anything with in 2 months. So look forward to that coming back at some point soon.
It's really embarrassing for you.
It is, yeah, it really is. That also, let me see.
Are we coming back with flight sim at all? Are you looking to do more of these?
Yeah, I sure am. I'm looking to do one of these every 2 weeks now, going forward. Every other Wednesday, 7 p.m. right here in this space. Oh, thank you, Soccer Kami, for dropping the Distance Yearning link in the group chat. Yep, distanceyearning.space. Didn't even think of plugging that tonight. So good on you. Good on you and Colin. Much appreciate the love. Anyway, so that's a piece that I have wanted to create a video piece out of, using looping footage of imagined like documentary footage of the first fish to walk on land. Did not do it for this week, but we'll see. Maybe I'll make one of those and drop it on Twitter soon. And now we have one last piece for you guys tonight. It is, you are always dropping links, Soccer Kami. Thank you. One last piece. It is the first piece I'm showing you guys tonight that no one's seen yet. It is something Colin created for the last episode of Flight Simulator before a little hiatus. Unfortunately, that episode was racked by technical difficulties, so the show didn't finish. So this is the first time we're going to see this. So get ready to give it up.
This is I think of the 4 pieces of mine tonight, this is my favorite, and really jazzed about.
I think it's the best. It's really very good. Folks, you are in for an absolute treat.
Are we gonna live?
Okay, I'm gonna make us go away.
Goodbye.
God, what a good piece. What a stirring, like beautiful, tender piece of work. What do you want to tell us about this?
Yeah, so my thought process there was like, what if a vampire really liked hanging out with a tree, say? So I wrote a poem about that. Next question.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So this gets at something that I really appreciate about the work, which is that it's not really doesn't beat you over the head with like what it's doing. I'm grateful for your like bluntness with that, because like I mean I got the bit of it, but I don't know that everyone would immediately. It's easy to get lost in the music and the visual and the words and not think through the narrative. What's your thought on like if folks are left out in the cold by the lack of clarity there?
Yeah, I mean, like, maybe I should have put some clip art of a Dracula in there. I don't know.
I think that's very astute. That's a good take.
I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm clowning on you about this now. There's no reason for me to be. You've been so kind to me here. You've invited me into our home, and then this happens.
It's great. I love this character you're doing. It's like vaguely like offensive stereotype of like a Brooklyn Italian that feels very pointedly directed at who I am as a person. Really hit right at the core of me, much like a vampire steak would. So I think something that I love about this piece, though, all jokes aside, is that you've told me that this is just like a screen recording of a PowerPoint, right?
Yes, that is true. My thing is that I'm not good at poetry, but I'm also, let me tell you, not good at videos. So the concept of making video poetry seemed very frightening to me until I was just like, oh, I can just like, or I was trying to like make this in like the free video software that I downloaded. And I was like, this is going to take so fucking long. I don't want to do this. This is terrible. I can just make this on Google Slides and then just screen record the whole thing. So I'm all about like cutting corners to a desired effect, which I think this accomplishes. But also like video poetry doesn't have to be particularly difficult to create, and harder maybe than drafting up a poem in a Word doc, but it doesn't have to be particularly complicated. And I hope that that's something other folks who do the show, especially if you're looking for other like works exploring like what video can do. I hope other folks can also take that to heart and make some video poetry that doesn't necessarily push them beyond their means as video makers or frankly as poets.
Absolutely. I really love that. I think you, for somebody who does not think they are good at poetry or at video, I think you frankly have really like become for me a formative figure of video poetry. In that the work you do is like really exciting to me. It really inspires me to create more work. And I hope that that goes for other folks as well. I would love to see more video poetry that is as not low effort, but that is like, I want to see more amateur video poetry. I think there's a lot, like we're going to be quarantined till 2021. I think we should all get really good at not being very good at different kinds of art.
Yeah, I think this show should do a hard pivot next into like a totally different genre, if possible. So like Flight Simulator, like dance series or something entirely by poets. So like,
oh, I love that. Well, so as you know, my dream for the show has been to turn it into like an underground fighting club and just call it the Fight Simulator Bleeding Series. So maybe that's what happens next.
As well you should, Mike.
Well, Colin, thanks so much for coming onto the show. You didn't have much of a choice, but still grateful. Always a pleasure to have you.
Can I plug 4YI real quick?
Oh, please plug 4YI really quick. Oh my God.
4YI. I guess we're doing this monthly now. Every month, hosting a show of 15 or so 4-minute presentations by people who have weird knowledge about a niche topic. So I think one of my absolute favorite 4YIs we've had in the past is a presentation about the history of the green M&M being sexy. We had what did I do? I did one last time about the Minneapolis mayoral election of 2013, which had 35 candidates in it. Mike, you've done these before. What have you done?
Let's see. My first one was about why about the sociological imagination of George R.R. Martin and why his books are much better than Game of Thrones. I did one on the internet cat industrial complex and just meme cats.
Yeah.
I will say, I am doing one this week, and I don't know what it's on yet. So that's going to be a fun surprise for all of us.
That's embarrassing for you.
It is.
I get it. You're busy with this show. I'll drop a link to this in the chat. I mean, it's free also. So it's Friday at 7 o'clock Eastern. So come join if you'd like.
Yep, it's going to be a lot of fun. We will both be there broadcasting from probably the same places we are now. So it's going to be like you're all in our house with us, but without the COVID risk. Okay, and on that note, I'm going to say goodnight to everybody now. We have run long, which is very exciting. That's never happened before. We'll be back here in 2 weeks with 2 new poets who I haven't confirmed yet, so I'm not going to give their names.
That's embarrassing for you, Mike.
Let me figure out how to do post-show stuff. I didn't rehearse this part. No, that's not it. Me. Oh, there we go. Hold on, let me. Am I still audible?
Yes.
Cool. Oh, that's exciting. I don't want to be.
Mute yourself.
All right. Good night, folks.